$45 million on the line, and the man who has to justify every single penny of it finished last season without one sack, zero. In a full NFL campaign, Mo Moton from Bleacher Report said it this week without sugarcoating it. Javon Kinlaw is the most overpaid player in the entire NFL, not on the Commanders roster, in the whole league. And in a minute, I am going to show you exactly why the numbers back that up and why 2026 is literally the last chance Kinlaw has to save his spot in Ashburn. But that is not the only thing happening in Washington this week, because while Kinlaw is fighting for his future in burgundy and gold, ESPN dropped their list of the best available free agents with less than 2 months until training camp. And sitting right there among the best unsigned players in the entire NFL are two names that were wearing that jersey last season. Two players Adam Peters let walk, and the question nobody in the DMV is asking correctly is this: if they are still sitting on the market, was it a mistake to let them go, or was it exactly the move this roster needed to take the next step? Stay with me, because the answer to that connects directly to the third story. There is a 6th-round rookie who showed up to minicamp this week and is already making the veterans in Washington's backfield look over their shoulders. A running back that Sports Illustrated is already calling the steal of the 6th round. And if Adam Peters is right about this kid the same way he was right about Krosky Merritt last year, then what he is building in Ashburn is something nobody in the DMV saw coming. Raise hail. Let's get into it. Mo Moton over at Bleacher Report dropped something this week that made eyebrows raise all across the media landscape. He named Javon Kinlaw as Washington's best player who could still get cut before the season starts. And he placed him among the most overpaid players in the entire league, not just on the Commanders, in the entire NFL. And look, as a fan, your first instinct is to push back, to say they are not cutting someone with that kind of contract. But then you sit down, you breathe, and you look at the numbers. And the numbers, fam, do not lie. Last season, Javon Kinlaw finished the year without a single sack, zero quarterback takedowns across an entire NFL season. On a 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed, he logged 43 tackles, 5 for loss, which is not terrible for a defensive tackle, but the money they paid him was not for him to be a run stopper. It was for him to be a real threat to the quarterback, and that simply did not happen. Now here's where things get complicated. The Commanders went out and signed Charles Omenihu in free agency. Omenihu is a versatile piece. He can line up on the defensive front or as an outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, which is exactly where Dan Quinn is moving Washington's defense. That versatility has real value on this roster. And if Omenihu shows up to OTAs competing hard for snaps, the pressure on Kinlaw becomes immediate, because look at how the defensive line is projected right now. Darren Payne on one end, Tim Settle Jr. as the nose tackle, Johnny Newton as the pass rush specialist, Omenihu with the flexibility to play inside or outside, and Kinlaw supposedly anchoring the other end. On paper, that sounds like depth. But in salary cap reality, Kinlaw carries a $16.2 million cap hit in 2026 alone. And when you produce 0 sacks, that number is almost impossible to justify, no matter how much money is trapped in dead cap. Now, let's be honest about the actual cut numbers, because this part matters. If the Commanders released Kinlaw right now this summer, they would save just $700,000 against $15.5 million in dead cap. That move makes 0 financial sense today, and Adam Peters knows it. Peters has enough cap space to absorb that hit if he really wanted to, but there is no sporting logic or financial logic that supports cutting Kinlaw in 2026. Where things get really interesting is in 2027. If Kinlaw puts together another season with no pass rush production, the Commanders can cut him and save $7 million with $9 million in dead money. And if they use a post-June 1st designation, that savings jumps to $13.3 million. That is real money. That is money Peters can use to keep building this roster. What this means tactically is that Kinlaw walks into these OTAs with the highest stakes of his professional career. That is not an exaggeration. If he puts together another sackless season, his time in Washington is over. And most likely, there will not be a second chance to flip that narrative after 2026. What I need to see from Kinlaw this summer in OTAs and through training camp is a different player showing up, a hungry player, because the physical tools were always there. Back with the Niners, there were moments where you could see the explosiveness off the snap, the leverage at the point of attack, the ability to win with his first step, but consistency, that is what was missing. And in the NFL, talent without consistency gets you out of the league faster than you think. No matter how much guaranteed money is on your contract, the ball is in his court, and in 2026, there are no more excuses. And speaking of players whose stories with the Commanders are already over, two names showed up this week in a place no fan ever wants to see them on ESPN's list of the best available free agents, which sounds good on paper until you remember these guys were wearing burgundy and gold last season. ESPN dropped their top available free agents list less than 2 months before training camp, and right there, among the best unsigned players in the entire NFL, are two former Commanders who still do not have a home for the 2026 season. Deebo Samuel at number 5, Bobby Wagner at number 11. Let's start with Deebo. Look, last year Samuel was Washington's leading receiver with 727 yards and 5 touchdowns. And pay attention to this number from ESPN because it tells you everything about how he needs to be used. 63.7% of his receiving production came after the catch. That is not a separation receiver. That is a weapon that needs a system built around getting him the ball in space and letting his athleticism take over. It is not that Samuel did not produce. It is that the system that gets the most out of him is very specific. The Dolphins, according to CBS Sports, are the ideal fit. SpotRack projects a 2-year, $31 million deal, but realistically, he is probably looking at 1 year, somewhere between $10 and $12 million. For a 30-year-old receiver, that is still serious money. And then there is Bobby Wagner, 19 tackles. That is what separates him from Ray Lewis's all-time record of 1,568 career tackles. Wagner averaged 9.5 tackles per game last season, 6th best in the entire league. The man can still play. The question is not whether he can, it is whether the Commanders actually needed to let that kind of leadership and production walk out the door. And here is the honest answer. Yes, because Washington drafted Sonny Styles with the 7th overall pick, a linebacker out of Ohio State who ran the 40 in 4.46 at the combine, broad jumped 11 feet 2 inches, and posted a 43.5-inch vertical leap, the best vertical by a linebacker in over 20 years, better than Calvin Johnson, better than Nick Emenwari. This kid is not just a replacement. He is the franchise bet at the center of Washington's defense for the next 10 years. So the departures of Samuel and Wagner are not signs of chaos. They are signs of a plan. And that plan is called smart rebuilding with strategic cap space and elite youth coming through the door. And if you want another example of that hungry youth arriving at the right time, there is a 6th-round running back who is already making the veterans in Washington's backfield look over their shoulders. Kaytron Allen, 6th round, Penn State, and analysts over at Sports Illustrated are already saying it out loud. This guy is the steal of the 6th round in this entire draft class. The Penn State numbers speak for themselves. 4,180 rushing yards. The program's all-time rushing leader, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to close out his college career. And what gets scouts most excited is not just the numbers, but how he got them. Allen is a powerful runner with NFL-level vision. From day one, he does not need manufactured space. He sees it, he attacks it, and he keeps moving. Washington's backfield is loaded right now. Krosky Merritt, who was last year's steal in the 7th round. Rashad White signed in free agency. Jerome Ford, too. Jeremy McNichols back on another 1-year deal. And now Allen is in the mix. Someone is not making the final roster when cut day arrives, and if Allen brings the same energy to training camp that he showed at rookie minicamp, that someone could be a veteran who did not expect to be fighting for his spot. Look, if Peters pulls off another Day 3 gem after Krosky Merritt last year, the man deserves a statue outside the stadium in Landover. I said what I said. This is what Washington is building. Real depth, real competition, and hungry young players who do not know how to quit. 45 million reasons for Kinlaw to show up to these OTAs, a completely different player. Two legends who left the burgundy and gold and still do not have a new home, and a sixth-round rookie already making veterans sweat in Ashburn. That is your Washington Commanders in May of 2026. Fam, and we have not even gotten to training camp yet? Drop your comment below right now. Do you believe Kinlaw can turn it around and justify that contract, or is the clock already running out on him in Washington? I want to hear from you, and if you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Raise hail, and I will see you in the next one.